As an American, the NFL and college football trump all other sports. That being said, Australia's National Rugby League has really grown on me in the past few years. It's exciting, violent, and really easy to get into. It is probably less complicated for newbies to understand than American football if we're being completely honest. However, the NRL is far from perfect. Like, for starters, I don't understand why the sport cannot accurately judge a forward pass when it's one of the most important rules of the game. There are so many blatant forward passes that don't get called in just about every game that it just baffles me. At least pass interference is a judgment call. It should be easy to determine a forward pass. The NRL definitely has its shortcomings, but there are also a few things it does a lot better than the NFL. And while I'm not saying pro football should or even could implement everything its Australian footy cousin does, there are some things worth taking a look at, and we're going to do just that on the Touchback. With NRL season underway for 2023, let's look at a few of the things the NRL does better than the NFL. Look, it's corny, and it kind of now just exists as a way to earn advertising revenue for the sport, but the no try instant replay reveal is entertaining nonetheless. Prior to the video version, this was actually done through scoreboard lights. Either way, it is certainly much better and much clearer than an NFL referee who's clearly not comfortable speaking on a microphone, stumbling over his words, trying to tell us if a touchdown had been scored or not. However, this is not the only benefit, because it also gives fans in the stands a more exciting experience, especially ones in the upper deck or the ones that aren't facing the hard cam. In those cases, you're simply looking at the back of someone talking. I mean, of course, you can also look at the Jumbotron to see what happens, but the reveal is just a much more exciting and better way to let fans, both in the stands and on television, know if a score has happened or not. There was an episode of Hard Knocks with the Atlanta Falcons back in the day that showed a picture of their kicker Matt Bryant without his shirt on, and it was not pretty viewing. It really only confirmed the fact kickers don't have to be athletes in the NFL. I mean, some are, but they never really get the chance to show it. In the NRL, kickers are tested with a lot more than simply trotting onto the field every once in a while to boot through a kick. Valentine Holmes is one of the best examples of this. Seriously, the guy can go on some insane runs, like just look at this run here. Not to mention, he proved to not be totally out of his element when in the NFL. Well, technically NFL preseason. I mean, let's full disclaimer here with preseason football. However, that's just the half of it, because Valentine Holmes is an outstanding kicker. Here he is casually nailing a game-winning field goal for the Cowboys. Well, not those Cowboys, but the North Queensland Cowboys from 43 yards. This doesn't even factor in his goal kicking, or the NRL's equivalent to the PAT, only a much more challenging kick to take. Usually, I mean not always, but usually speaking. Then you have guys like Matt Burton, who could already be better than some punters plying their trade in the NFL. His kick bombs are absolutely legendary. But then here he is busting tackles and breaking off long runs in a manner no kicker, bar maybe Michael Dixon, could duplicate. And we also have to mention Dixon is Australian. Give me more guys like Holmes who can kick and play than players like Matt Bryant, who seems like he would struggle to beat my dad in a foot race. The NRL format is something I wish the NFL would seriously think about adopting, because it would eliminate a lot of the current shortcomings of the current American football playoff format. First though, let's look at how things work down under. The top 4 clubs face off in seeded contests where you have first versus fourth and second versus third. The bottom 4 sides do the same. The winners of the higher seeded games advance to the semifinals, essentially earning a bye in the process. The loser hosts quarterfinal matchups the next week, where they will face the winners from the lower seeded bracket. What this does is help ensure teams who performed best in the regular season actually have an advantage heading into the postseason. Additionally, byes are distributed based on merit in this format. From an NFL perspective, I think it would be a wise addition because the team that usually ends up with the first seed in the playoffs finds itself not only doing nothing for that first round of the playoffs, but usually will end up resting players in the last regular season game, assuming they have things tied up or they already have clinched the number 1 seed. It's not great having your best team doing nothing for 2 weeks, and you see that a lot of times with those number 1 seeds not always performing to their very best in the playoffs. This format, of course, does necessitate an extra week of playoffs, but honestly, I would take that over the stupid 17th week and unbalanced home and away scheduling that I still don't think is really particularly all that good. There is nothing worse than an NFL game where one team has like a 20-point plus lead midway through the 4th quarter, because at that point nothing happens, no one does anything. You're just going through the motions to run out the clock. And even if the team leading does try to score, their opposition will always get all butthurt about it. It's always a thing. Like if you have a lead by 27 and you score a touchdown, it's, oh, you're breaking the unwritten rules and the etiquette. It's just stupid. In the NRL, teams keep going for it, regardless of the second half score. And the opponent doesn't bitch about running up the score if it happens. Sure, sometimes the losing team will get salty, like if the side that's winning by like 24 points tries some last second hook and ladder miracle play with time running out, but usually there's an acceptance that, you just keep playing until there's no time left. One thing to note about this in particular in the NRL is that point differential is a tiebreaker, so there is incentive to keep scoring. Obviously, point differential doesn't mean that much in the NFL, and they've tried to phase that out of the college game as well. And I'm not saying that those things should be brought back in American football, but I think we should just let teams keep playing and keep trying until the end of the 4th quarter. The reason people like sports like the NFL and the NRL is the certain level of violence on display. It's the reason why touch football has and will never become popular to watch on television. There's just no violence, there's no excitement. However, the NFL does not have action quite like a rugby league forward taking the ball and running full speed into the line. We're talking about a bunch of big hosses just trying to impose their will on one another. There's nothing flashy or skilled about this. It is pure, raw violence, and it is mesmerizing and just so awesome to watch. NRL playman Andrew Voss is one of the best at his craft. And I'm not just talking about in Australia. He's one of the best play-by-play men I think I've ever heard do a television broadcast. The closest American comparison I can make to Voss would be Ian Eagle, and unfortunately he gets relegated to CBS's third choice NFL broadcast and Brooklyn Nets games. Anyway, what makes Voss so awesome is that he really balances knowledge with fun. He loves what he does, and he makes each broadcast fun to watch without making things silly. Also, one thing I appreciate is that Vossi will drop NFL references. Like, Australian announcers are much more knowledgeable about American sports, unlike, say, American announcers who refer to any large group of people as a rugby scrum, which is just so annoying and so incorrect. That's really just the tip of the iceberg with Voss, though. I think he gives you a lot of the history, but it's never over the top. It's never pretentious. It's a very engaging presentation for those who are both new to the sport and who followed it for years and decades. And he is one of the best things about the NRL. And the NFL could use more announcers like him. Nothing can replace football season. From August to February, it's all about the NFL, it's all about college football, and it's all anything really most sports fans want or care about. Those other months though, they're not as great. Look, I'm a big fan of the XFL. I think they've done a bang-up job this year, but there's still room for other sports to capture our attention. In terms of physicality and in terms of excitement, the NRL offers a very fun, watchable product that's worth your time, although the time zone difference may not make it such a great choice for those in the States. However, if you're up at late at night or early in the morning or whatever it happens to be, consider watching the NRL because it is a hugely enjoyable sport. Not quite as good as the NFL, but fun nonetheless. Anyway, that does it for me. I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is the Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it up to the 25.